take your calls, but let's get right to Mitch Davis, University of Memphis Tigers reporter from Rivals.com. Mitch, welcome to the show. Hey, we're doing great. This is Go Tigers, not Go Tigers. But big game tomorrow. 8 days ago, Memphis and Cincinnati played. Memphis won 34-24 at the Liberty Bowl. It was a great crowd last Friday. Tomorrow, you're going to play Cincinnati again, and they're 10-2, a really good team. And Gordon and I and everybody out here, we want to know what you're hearing over there at Memphis. We know about all the Mike Norvell is a hot commodity. A lot of people are interested in him. But what are you hearing right now about preparation for the game tomorrow, which is most important? I think the biggest game Memphis has ever had, because if they win, they may be going to a New Year's Six Bowl. That's what I thought, because 11-1, that's got to be the most wins in University of Memphis football history. And a win and an opportunity as the highest ranked team outside of the Power 5 conferences could put Memphis up against Alabama or Auburn or one of the big time programs in the country. I wouldn't count Memphis out against anybody. And this team knows how to win. They've got the one loss on the road at Temple. Temple's a good team, and Cincinnati's a really good team. What does Memphis need to do better? That they won the game last week, but what do they need to do better to get this win? Because, again, this is the biggest game. You know there's a lot of pressure, but Mike Norvell's teams are really good at being dialed in at game time. What did you see out of Cincinnati last week that you're worried about? And I'm going to say, if you're the Memphis coaches, offense, defense, special teams, because that is a team that won 10 games this year. Memphis won 11. They want to go to a big bowl game. They want to win the conference championship too. All right, special teams, Mike Norvell's teams have been really good at returning kicks for touchdowns. Gordon, not many schools in the country get one a year. How many has Memphis returned this year, punts and kickoffs?
A lot.
All right, now, Mike Norvell, 11-1, best season win-wise in Tiger history. Everybody is talking around the country right now about these coaching vacancies. Gordon at Florida State, at Ole Miss, at Arkansas. Those are three names and three schools that have openings, and Mike Norvell's name is attached to all of them. I think you're going to be able to tell in the pregame warm-ups tomorrow by the body language of the Memphis football team what's going to go on. Florida State keeps saying they're going to make an announcement after these championship games on Saturday. Do either one of y'all have a gut feeling?
Oh, I know. I know what's going to happen.
I have that kind of feel that he's going. I know he's stepping out on that parade, but Florida State's one of those programs you just can't forget. You know, it's one of the elite. I'm sure he's powerful for them. It's really hard.
He's gone. I can tell you. I know.
I've heard that 3 days ago that he's gone, and there's a possibility he would take Kenny Dillingham, who's been at Auburn for years, quarterback coach with Gus Malzahn, with him. That's his prodigy. He's had with him his entire coaching career. Guys, Gordon, I'll start with you. We're going to have a guest on from Florida State about 4:15.
I can tell you what I know that he's going to do from what I've been hearing, okay? He's going to take Charlie Strong with him as defensive coordinator for University of South Florida. Kenny Dillingham, I don't know if he's really in the mix on that deal. The Florida State people want to keep Kendall Briles there as the offensive coordinator. But, you know, he's been involved in some jobs in Arkansas and all that. But the rumor is, and what I'm hearing strongly today, is that he's got the job.
Yeah. Well, all right. We haven't even played this game tomorrow. And Mitch, tell me right now, Kenny Gainwell, Patrick Turner, Memphis has got some really good backs, receivers. This offense just it keeps going. All right. If Norvell, if the players know, and it's hard to keep it a secret, but they can tell, what do you then think Memphis is going to do in this game? Another 9-point favorite. The home crowd, I'm worried. I would hate to see the air let out of the Memphis football team. Just the life sucked out of the room. That's what happened at Temple. Remember when Justin Fuente left to take the job at Virginia Tech? It was obvious he was going to leave, and Memphis just was flat as a pancake when they hit the field up there and lost to Temple back in the 2015 season.
You know, and that's something that I've been playing at. The real thing is they have to come out and just say they're ready.
Gordon, Mitch, is this the biggest game Memphis has ever played? And what happens if they win the game and it's announced late tonight or tomorrow that Mike Norvell's leaving? What kind of focus does Memphis have going into, if they win a conference championship and the biggest bowl game in school history?
I think it is the biggest game. And I'll tell you another thing. I know he's talked to some people before, you know, there are some other radio people, as I was told last night, and it does not seem like he's leaving there. He never did act like a guy who was leaving, but, you know, you're just hearing so much today and some stuff that's come out that makes sense. So, but, you know, what would they do, Mitch, if he were to leave? I mean, what's your immediate thing that you would think? That's a good point. And he took Liberty in their first bowl this year. They're going to go, yeah. He's a great coach.
Yeah. Well, and Hugh Freeze is from Coldwater, Independence, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Great recruiter. Look, dynamic personality. Hey, he screwed up. You know, we've all made mistakes and done dumb things in life. He's paid for it, okay? And time to move on.
Well, they're putting a new contract together today for Hugh Freeze at Liberty. I don't know if they match Memphis or not, but yeah, they're definitely going to up his money because once they went Division I, with Turner Gill there,
Yeah.
it just, he couldn't get him anywhere. And then Hugh has some 7-5 this year.
Yeah.
They just beat and they lost to BYU and one other team I'm trying to think that's pretty good. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't shock me for Hugh to come back. Now he may want to stay there because Falwell and all that, but they went on the limb and hired him.
Yeah, and that was when he was sort of an
A year
outcast
ago.
at the time. Yeah, but look, he resigned right before the start of the 2017 season. That would get the Memphis people really excited, and as opposed to bringing in someone no one's ever heard of. Of course, Mike Norvell came in here, and he wasn't exactly a household name, was he?
Not at all.
No, it's absolutely right. Like I said, Michael doesn't think a lot of it,
And that's true. He could. I don't think he does, but I think he could.
I don't think there's any
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? If you're listening to I'm not like Memphis. I never thought I'd see the day for Memphis being like my still stop.
Yeah.
They're out there fine.
Yeah, and don't go in there with a defeatist attitude, waiting for the other shoe to drop if you're a Memphis fan, because part of a program's growth is change. And this is what's going on. But look, I'm going to tell you, I'll use this as an example. Gordon, tell me if y'all agree. Mark D'Antonio, who's now the coach at Michigan State, started at Cincinnati. Brian Kelly replaced
He
him.
was also at Central Michigan,
Yeah.
too, I believe.
That's where they all start with
Yeah.
the Chippewas.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Brian Kelly comes to Cincinnati, and he goes to Notre Dame. He's still there. After that, Eddie Munster Jr. Butch Jones. He got the job at Cincinnati. He goes on to Tennessee. Then after Butch Jones, Tommy Tuberville. After Tommy Tuberville, Luke Fickell from Ohio State comes to Cincinnati. In the last 12 years, guys, Cincinnati has had 7 seasons of double-digit wins, 10, 11, or 12 wins in a season. So what happens is Justin Fuente gets it going. Mike Norvell comes in after that. You see what I'm saying? You're starting to build something to where guys go, man, I'll go there for 4 or 5 years and get it going. And eventually, someone's going to stay like Chris Peterson did at Boise or Mark Few at Gonzaga.
I think it's great to see that guy.
That's true.
I really believe that he's great, and you know what? I know my point is great. I
Well, he's a guy that knows the high school coaches in Memphis and in the Mid-South, and it's all about recruiting. He'll put a staff together. You know, he knows a lot of coaches that would like to be back with him, and the Memphis high schools produce some really good talent. But Mike Norvell found guys like Kenny Gainwell that were the 124th ranked running back in the country. Are you kidding me? And look at him. Look at Patrick Taylor from Texas. Great developers. Gordon's pointed this out a number of times. They're great developers of talent. But Hugh Freeze, the one thing he did do at Ole Miss, Gordon, they didn't have a great running game, but I think he's matured as a head coach in the college level.
Yeah, he has. And, he would be a great addition to the University of Memphis. I still say that he doesn't leave Liberty like that after they bailed him out of the dumps. And I'm with you. He would be the best choice, Mitch, for the job. But as of right now, I just don't know if he can just book on them just this quick. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, exactly.
Mitch, say this. I know you got to go. You got a 3:30 press conference you got to be at. Say what you want to say to the Memphis listeners, Memphis fans, and just people that live in Memphis and want to see a great football game that is really important for the city of Memphis today and for years to come about showing up at the Liberty Bowl tomorrow at kickoff. Well, get there long before the Tiger Lane and start having a lot of fun.
I'm going to keep it that way. That's my one. Enjoy the moment. It's
I hope that happens. That Mitch, join us again next week. You're a great reporter. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, all those little good things great, like so we got actually podcast about it later, like our former fire player, also Maddie and from the Bear Pass, podcast, also got a lot of great out tonight, not sure like
I love it, man. You're a positive, optimistic guy. Keep coming on the show with us. Thanks for the report. You're right. Go Tigers. Gordon, all right, Hugh Freeze, it doesn't look like he's going to get in the SEC.
No, he's not getting the SEC. Memphis may take him. But here's the thing. After they just put him back, he's a very religious guy.
Mhm.
And Jerry, who runs Liberty?
Jerry Falwell's son. Yeah.
Son runs Liberty.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that they're going to bolt on him after 1 year. I mean, he may do it. I don't see it. So
I think you're right, because when you go through what he went through and someone gives you another chance, it's likely he'll remain loyal to them. Maybe we're not having this conversation. Let's focus on the moment, though. Memphis, Cincinnati tomorrow. What's your prediction?
I like Memphis in that game. It wouldn't shock me for Cincinnati to win, but I do like Memphis. I think Pickle's a great coach.
Yeah. You know what? The job that Mike Norvell and the Memphis coaches have done bringing Brady White along, because he didn't have a great year last year. They went 8-6, and now they're 11-1, albeit for 4 turnovers at Temple. They might be 12-0. Best season in school history anyway, regardless at 11-1.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, what's going to happen? Memphis wins that game tomorrow. They're 12-1, and they get invited to the Cotton Bowl, and they're going to play a big-time program out there in Dallas.
Well, you'll probably have an interim coach more than likely, because the rumors are too strong right now.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, whoever that guy may be, Hugh Freeze or some assistant or something like that, you know, I don't know what will happen in that game. That's all I got to say, because you'll have probably a new staff, kind of like Tuberville when he left to go to Auburn. David Cutcliffe came in there and coached the ball game.
Well, when you're ready to go, you need to go. You don't need to be hanging around vacillating. Just like if a guy after 3 years is fighting over that decision, should I go pro or should I stay? A lot of times, most of the time, the guys, unless they're absolutely, I'm coming back, I can't wait to be back, what happens is they come back and they start playing scared not to get hurt because their agent gets in their ear. So you're either all in or you need to be all gone. Okay? All right. Let's take a commercial break right here. Let some of our sponsors, God bless them, make this show possible. We're going to be joined at 3:30 by Sonny Smith, talk some SEC basketball, Gordon, and we'll be right back. Check us out, sidelines.live. Hey. My buddy. Yeah. Get him. My buddy.
Also, listen. Hey, what did you do? Hey, what did you get?
Cheeseburgers and sliders and stuff.
Okay, they don't have any other cheese on them.
You know, I hate grilled cheese. That one may or may not. All right, try the wings too, okay? These are the chips that they make. Who is this? You know, holiday ham?
Huh?
No, holiday ham and pimentos.
See, they don't have to. They don't have to hire. They pay for it.
Hey, Audrey?
Where'd my cup go?
Go get some of this food. some wings.
That's your cup. Mom's
Yeah,
trying to take
Sure.
it.
Sure. Where's mine? Here's mine.
Yours had a Coke in it. Good, isn't it?
I've been working on this shit all morning.
You know that thing's picking up the boys. Tell her back on. You're back on, Mom.
I got some old history for you too, Bob.
All right, back with you, Rob Brown, Gordon Ford on a Friday afternoon. This is Sidelines. Check us out. We're live streaming on sidelines.live. Got Shane, the snakeskin cowboy, in there, our producer. Our manager, Dave Brown, up here. Miss Audrey in there, live streaming with that new iPhone 110. Gordon Ford, my co-host here. All this food that you see here out in front of us is from Pimento's. Holiday ham in Memphis you all know about. But Pimento's is also part of the Holiday Ham restaurant family with Trey Jordan and his dad, Don Jordan. Been in this business for a long time.
New Don, man, those are great guys.
They are great people. And we've got some wings on here. Oh my goodness, the burgers with the French fries on them, the pimento cheese. We got some sliders. They make great chips. Man, they've got locations, 2 Pimentos in Memphis and on Poplar and Collierville. Check them out on our website, Holiday Ham and Pimentos. Check them out. They are opening up. The one in Collierville stays open late, has a full bar patio that seats 50 people. The inside is absolutely spectacular and it is one of the coolest places. Audrey and I went there and met Trey Jordan, the owner, for lunch last Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. And I went there today and picked up some food before the show. Place is packed. Check them out on the website, Pimentos, and also Holiday Ham catering for parties, anything you want. Business lunches, they've got the food that'll cover anything. And also, I had for lunch today the barbecued shrimp quesadillas, Gordon. They are so good that you really want to take your time eating them so that the ride's not over. It's like being on the Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags, but great food from Pimentos. And all of our sponsors, we are here because of you, and we're also here because we got some great guests calling in on the show. Sonny Smith is going to be joining us here in just a couple of minutes. He's going to talk some SEC basketball, Gordon. And I know he gets to do color commentary on the Auburn Network, but he's been around a long time.
A long time.
And Kermit Davis at Ole Miss, all these coaches, they've got some great stories to tell. And you're seeing in the Southeastern Conference basketball, Mike Slive said before he left his job as the head of the Southeastern Conference, he wanted the schools to really start ramping up their basketball programs. I think we've really seen a great job of that happen.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
And
I mean, several years ago, what were you getting 2 teams in? I mean,
maybe. And
yeah,
and
4523094 are our numbers here, Rob. If anyone wants to get in, talk some SEC basketball, where Coach Norvell may end up, or if he stays. And you know, I just believe that he is gone.
well, I tell you what, we don't want to be harping about a coach leaving before the biggest game, but it certainly is a big story. But any coach, when you're successful, money's going to come. But look at the top 4 teams in the college football playoff rankings: Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, and LSU. All 4 assistant coaches who just became head coaches. They did not have a long resume as a head coach. Now, Ed Orgeron had been a head coach and an interim head coach at Southern Cal, head coach at Ole Miss, but he'd been an assistant at LSU. And when Les Miles was fired after the Auburn loss in 2016, the interim was taken off at the end of the season. But 70-80% of the LSU fans didn't think it was a really good hire. But look at it now.
Yeah, it was. It was a very good hire. And now, you know, you have at Ole Miss, Matt Luke's gone. So now you're hearing today Lane Kiffin as the head coach of Ole Miss. But then again, there's some stuff that's jammed that up. I understand there's some problem with some alumni about him, and he's still involved in Arkansas. So you're hearing there that he's going to bring Butch Davis as defensive coordinator because that's what Jerry Jones wants. And I think Arkansas is going to be a hard rebuild. I mean, their talent is so bad right now. And then if he doesn't get it if Kiffin does not end up getting the job, I think that they go with Billy Napier in Louisiana Lafayette, who's up and coming.
He's got a 10-win season this year, playing in a conference championship game tomorrow.
Yep.
And what, 5 years on the staff with Nick Saban?
Yes.
That's kind of the magic
Dabo as
resume.
well.
Yeah.
And then he was out at Arizona State. Herb Edwards told him he could stay. I mean, he was such a good coordinator, and he took the Louisiana Lafayette job. And here's the thing: I don't think you're going to have to pay a guy like that a lot. He's making $700,000 at Louisiana Lafayette.
Yeah. You're gonna have an opportunity if you're a coach,
Okay.
Billy Napier, and you go from 700 to 2.1 million. That's tripling your salary right there.
Probably get him up around 3, I would think.
Yeah. And so it's just fun to watch these coaches. But remember 3 years ago when
Oh, right.
you remember Tom Herman, everybody had to have him, and it's not working.
Billy Napier has had better seasons than Tom Herman. Tom Herman, as you say, is one of the most overrated coaches.
3, 2, 4,
Period. Then they hired Charlie Strong before him.
7,
He's
4, 9,
overrated. This dude here, Billy Napier, has paid his dues.
Yeah.
He went into Louisiana Lafayette. He's had coordinator jobs. He's big time with big time programs, and the guy can recruit too. Runs the spread. So does Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin for Ole Miss would be a home run hire.
Well, look at him as a quarterback coach. Dan Mullen and Lane Kiffin, maybe the two best developers of quarterbacks that we've seen. Go back to 2014, Blake Sims as a quarterback from, I believe, Gainesville, Georgia.
Couldn't play dead to John Wayne. Made him a player.
Yeah, moved him to running back, and then brought him back to quarterback for the 2014 season at Alabama. And they won the SEC championship, got to the college football playoff the first year ever, but they got beat by Ohio State. But still, the next year, Jacob Coker transferred from Florida State. Jughead. They win the national championship.
Yep, they win the national championship.
2016, he brings in Jalen Hurts, who was a weightlifting freak from Channelview, Texas. Brings him in there, and they play for the national championship and lose with 1 second left to Clemson on the pick play when Hunter Renfrow, the walk-on at Clemson, caught the winning touchdown pass. That's Lane Kiffin. Say what you want about, he was only at Tennessee for 1 year. He went to Southern
He
Cal.
improved him too, by the way. People forget that.
He did. And what if Tennessee would have just named Coach O head coach at that time? But I think people still had the hangover, the bad memories of his 3-year run at Ole Miss. Okay, but remember, 19 players that were signed by Coach O at Ole Miss went to the NFL. All right, we're going to be joined now by a very special guest, former Auburn and Virginia Commonwealth College basketball coach, and just a legend down here, Sonny Smith. And Coach, welcome to Sidelines. We're glad to have you.
It's my pleasure. How are you guys today?
Doing good.
Doing good. Tell us, last night, you and I were talking earlier about Auburn had a game against Furman. Just goes to show you that there's good teams everywhere. What are you seeing out of this Auburn team? And then we'll take a look at the rest of the Southeastern Conference, what you're seeing so far and what you think might happen.
Well, when they shoot the ball successfully, they're very difficult to beat because they're so good on defense and they rebound the ball fairly well, better than fairly well. But one thing that they must do every night to be successful is shoot the ball. And last night against Furman, they didn't. And a lot of that has to do with Furman's defense too. Now you can take that totally away from Furman, but I think on both sides when they shoot the ball, they're going to be very difficult.
Yeah, you went to overtime. Auburn Gordon's got a lot of freshmen and 5 seniors. Samir Dowdy, you remember the Final Four, everybody does. Auburn lost 63-62 to Virginia. And Gordon, get in here on this one. I think that's a tough one. And Coach, you've been at it a long time. You coached a lot of great players. That team rallied around him. Talked about Samir Dowdy and the mission he's on this year. Is looks like to be the leader of that Auburn basketball team.
Well, just from the guy, last year he compared to 3 other players, and he was like, in his mind, he was like the 3rd or 4th option. So this year, he realizes that he pretty much has to be the 1st option or the 2nd option, and he's taking those things into his way of playing, and he's being very successful for it, and so is Auburn because of him. There's not much that he cannot do. He's off the drive, he's off the dribble, he can stay up one-on-one, and he can make a 3-point shot, he's excellent free throw shooting, and he guards really well, and that's just kind of giving him a lot of credit for a lot of things, but that's exactly what he's doing right now for Auburn.
Coach, looking at the S. Gordon Ford, actually I've met you before with Lee Hunt. I was a manager under him back when you were coaching. That was some fun times back then. You know what? You had a lot of. Lee is, and he's had some cancer scares, and supposedly he's cured it. I was going to call him this week and check on him, and he's he's been kind of up and down, but he's still with us. And but well, you look at the league overall and the coaches that they're bringing in there. Eric Musselman, Buzz Williams at A&M. You look at Kermit Davis and you probably coached against his dad at Mississippi State. And you look at the league's coaches are getting better. And it's like, it's going to be, that SEC supposed West is going to be really tough.
You know what, this might sound a little crazy, but the way that basketball has made turn for the better in the Southeastern Conference is because I think they got away from that football mentality.
True, you're absolutely right.
I think everybody is so much better now that they realize what the basketball program can be. Even though they did it back then, they did not recognize it.
I know new arenas and everything. Yeah, you're correct.
And now, basketball is thrown in there on a very high level in every university. You know why? Because of the amount of money they're bringing in from television contracts and with the league and individual contracts and that type of thing. It gets into big time. And SEC is right after when you start talking about leagues. You're talking about a league in the top 3 or 4 without a doubt. And I think I'm putting them down with us in 3 or 4. Up there in the top 3
Actually, you're correct. But the thing is back then, and I've sat down and talked to some of these guys that coached back then, like Wetlick and people like that. I was actually under him for a while. But, you look back then, and the basketball coaches, you probably can attest to this, were paid so low in the Southeastern Conference. And you talk to people, they were back then making $25,000 a year and $30,000. I know that you had jumped up. Actually, you had left. We're going to go back to East Tennessee State for a while. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then y'all got on a roll, and I think Auburn, took care of you a little bit, and you stayed there for a while.
Yes, and a lot of that was salary really. I took the job at Auburn for about 2,000 more than I was making at East Tennessee State. And I realized after a while it looked like they had that much want to make this basketball program special. And so I was going to go back to East Tennessee State and I upgraded to a certain extent with money, not for coaching salary, but for State, you have to make much higher grades on those than you used to. I'll give you a good example. When I coached in the SEC, you get in most schools with a 2.0 and 700 on college board. Well, that kind of guy today, he goes to JC or to Webster. You know, he does one of the two, and he comes out there a better player. But it is a little bit more difficult today because there's other standards set for the universities to get in their schools.
Coach, I remember a game, when I was in school at Auburn. I thought it was the greatest victory, and it still is probably, that I've ever seen in person. I remember it was the Friday night. TBS used to do a Friday night SEC game of the week. It was January 13th, I believe, 1984. We're playing Kentucky. Melvin Turpin, Sam Bowie. They had a heck of a team, the Twin Towers. It was a packed house at the Coliseum that Friday night. Charles Barkley, I think, was having back spasms. Kentucky got up on top of Auburn 8-0. All of a sudden, Barkley comes in. It's 16-8. I believe Auburn won the game 84-63. And it was so powerful. And the games that you had with Wimp Sanderson, your friend, the Plaid Palace, it was so much fun. And then Norm Sloan would come to Auburn and everybody would cheer, "Sit down, Norm." And just, man, we had a lot of fun when you were there. You had Charles Barkley, and you had Chuck Person, you had Chris Morris, some great players. And you know what I love to see? I saw it a few years back. Wimp Sanderson's son was coaching Faulkner State, and he was sitting on the bench. It was a Friday night in 2006. Auburn was playing Arkansas State, I think, the next day. The Auburn fans were lined up as far as you could see them to go shake Wimp's hand and get their picture with him, or just give him a hug and just say, "I'm glad to see you." Isn't that a special relationship y'all have?
Well, it was. It really was. But you know what? The interesting thing about that is it really showed all that much, because I don't think so much Auburn people, Alabama people would get real mad if they thought that Wimp was really that much hate between the two schools. But
You're kidding.
let's keep it at a low level. We didn't grab each other, hug each other really.
Yeah.
We should actually miss it off the years, even as
One of the things is back then, and the SEC and all of college basketball between us, and you understand, is watered down. There's no seniors. You got all these freshmen, and everybody jacks them all up to how great they are, and they're good players, but they're just not ready. But you had people like Barkley, Chris Morris, who was a phenomenal talent, and people like that. Had Jeff Malone at Mississippi State. There's not a player has been as good as Jeff Malone ever at that school since that time. I don't care what anybody says. He was the best. You had Carlos Clark at Ole Miss. Heck, he was a third-round pick. That's when he went that far in the NBA. Played some with the Celtics, just, physical specimen. Yeah, he was good. You look at Florida. You had guys down there that were good. Vernon Delancey, LSU. Look at that team. You had, that team that they played for it went to the Final Four, had Rick Maddox, off the bench, Jordy Hultberg coming off the bench, Sims, all those guys. And to me, those teams were a lot better than these teams are today.
I think you're correct. I'll say the reason that is because we had players easier than they did today.
But they were more mature. Yeah.
Yeah, and it made basketball start being accepted as a big time sport. When you used to think of the SEC, you used to think of Kentucky first and then the rest of us.
That's correct.
That's no longer the case. It's still a big time thing, but it's no longer the case that it's Kentucky and the rest of us. You've got people that, sit on the fence and decide they do. And it's really changed a lot of things in the league, and I like that.
Coach, that run that Auburn had to go to the Final Four last year, beating Kansas, beating North Carolina, and then the Sunday game in overtime to beat Kentucky. you get up to the Final Four. I've been to the Final Four once. You've probably been a lot, but it is 72,000 at the basketball game last year in Minneapolis for the Final Four. Auburn, Virginia, Texas Tech, and Michigan State. I think Auburn had 10, 12,000 people up there. Would you have ever dreamed they'd have more people on the road than they can do in the Auburn arena in terms of attendance?
He had a lot of reputation. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach, I know you've got to get going. We'd love to have you on every week talking basketball in the SEC and around the country. As you leave, just tell us what you think maybe some of the best teams are going to be in the SEC that you think, and of course that can change, injuries or whatever can happen, but maybe your top 3 teams in the SEC, and we'll let you go. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
And I don't know who beyond that who's an exceptional talent, and they're going to be really good. I think everybody else is kind of thrown into a pot and pick them out. I don't know who it would be. I just think Auburn is going to be one of the better ones, but I don't know who's third, fourth, fifth in there, you know, at all. I think it's going to be more balanced this year with the exception of Kentucky and Florida. It's going to be one of the best years in this league. It's been a lot because of the balance in the talent.
Well,
And I don't mean it's extremely high, but I mean everybody's got somebody. And that makes it an awful lot tougher for me. But I don't even know who's going to get their best first or second or third. I mean, third on down, I don't know who it'll be, but I think Florida should be the second best team.
I'll say one thing. One team that I think you're going to see mass improvement from is Arkansas. I think Musselman's probably one of the better coaches to come in the league in a long time. So that's a team that I'm thinking right now that's going to be a surprise.
Well, I can tell you this. If coaching is important as it really, I think it is. Very much will get it going in Arkansas.
Absolutely.
Basketball. Only problem they got is not that many players in the state because of size. Size is the thing. But if they get some business in that area right there and go north, do what they need to up in there, I think he's just a good recruiter and a great coach. Everybody always thought Arkansas was a better job. So I just think it's going to be a good one there for sure. I think another place that's going to get pretty good again if they can overcome all these NCAA talk, and that's LSU should be really strong.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Coach, we're looking forward to having you on again next week. Man, what this has been a real treat. And so thank you so much. I know we got some
Thank you,
football
Coach.
this weekend, but thank you for being on here with us. And maybe one of these times you can tell some of the funny stories about Charles Barkley trying to get his weight down for Bobby Knight on the Olympic team. You bet. Have a great weekend, sir. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll be back with more. We're going to have an LSU Frank Duffy call us from Atlanta, talking about the LSU Georgia game here. It looks like in a second. And he's going to be talking about that big game. And then Buck Ballou from Georgia going to be talking about it. So stay with us, sidelines.live. Jeff Malone. His knowledge of this thing. Good. Oh. Hey, did you hear? He said well, thing is, you know where you know what we do. You know doing. You know he's in the basketball. He was coaching. He was gone from Moses' sister in Virginia Tech. Your son? Yeah. Go. Oh my God.
This is why I can't hear, man. Somebody unplugged this. That's why nobody can hear.
Right.
And if anyone knows that statistically tell them so it's a great story.
You're right. I don't think I could have said it any better. We don't know how to make the kitchen work.
You know what?
Kitchens Unlimited, 3550 Summer Avenue, Summer in Highland. We've been in business now 50 years. Check out their website, kitchensunlimited.net. Remember the sidelines, check them out on their website, kitchensunlimited.net.
Okay.
If Grandma runs over Santa's reindeer, don't leave that deer alone there in the street. Load him up and take him down to Dino's, where they can process him into some real fine meat.
Your home is one of your most valuable assets. It's where you and your family live and create lasting memories. It's where you keep your valued possessions. You never know exactly what's around the next corner. That's why you need Jameson and Fisher. Since 1907, they've been serving the needs of Mid-Southerners for auto, renters, ATV, motorcycle, home, boat, and business insurance. Call, email, or stop by. The office is located on the historic square in Covington, Tennessee. Or check them out on the web at jamesonandfisher.com.
Shane? All right, Rob Brown and Gordon Ford are back here with you on the sidelines Friday afternoon. It is just about 7 minutes until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the East, and we're going to be joined now by Frank Duffy. What an LSU Tiger. Lives up in Atlanta. He's there for the SEC championship game where he lives, of course. And the Dogs and the Tigers playing tomorrow. It's going to be a great game. And Frank, I'm sure the Georgia fans feel like they're going to have home field advantage, but imagine there's going to be a lot of purple and gold coming up to Atlanta. There's a lot of LSU fans and alumni in Atlanta anyway, I bet you are fired up. And where are they selling king cakes in Atlanta for this weekend's game?
Well, buddy, I got to tell you, the Tigers are already here, and I don't know if you've heard, but there are billboards all around town that says the Tigers are about to own Atlanta. Nothing like putting all your chips in the middle of the table when you come into a quote-unquote neutral site.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, I'm so happy you asked me to give you a call today because you know the last time I was on your show, before this little game in Tuscaloosa between the Tigers and the Tide,
Yeah.
that turned out pretty well. So I'm gonna use this as a good omen tomorrow. No, it's gonna be a great game. Yeah, LSU and Georgia have had really great battles over the years. I remember the game in Tiger Stadium in 2003, and then the Tigers playing them again in the Georgia Dome for the SEC championship later that year. I also remember when Georgia and DJ Shockley shocked the Tigers. You know, we had national championship hopes, and DJ Shockley threw 2 touchdowns to Sean Bailey, ran one in. Dogs had a pick 6. So there's been some memorable games between these two squads, and it is the absolute irresistible force against the immovable object. It is the perfect strength on strength. But here's the funny part. Everybody's focusing when LSU has the ball against Georgia's on the defense. Where I think this game's going to be won or lost is on the other side of this line of scrimmage. It's going to be what can LSU's defense do against Jake Fromm and that Georgia offense, and how healthy is DeAndre? Is he going to be able to come in and play with that shoulder injury? And don't forget, remember when Kerryon Johnson came in a couple of years ago? He played, but he wasn't the same running back.
No.
So I think this game is going to be won or lost, not on the high profile side of the ball with LSU's high octane offense against Georgia's stingy defense, but it's truly going to be won in the trenches when LSU's defense has to stop Georgia. And with the fact that they've got limited playmakers, that first half, when Pickens is on the sideline, that first half is going to tell the tale what happens in this ballgame.
Look, Buck Bellew is going to be joining us in just a few minutes from Atlanta.
My buddy Buck, man, we're great friends. In
Yeah.
fact, as you know, I do a lot of the advertising on 680 The Fan here. Buck and I have got to be great friends. And by the way, the analysis between me and him, he knows more about football in his pinky finger than I have in my entire body. So I assure you his analysis will be far better than mine. I'm just a Tiger fan that's about to go have cocktails in about an hour with all my buddies coming up and hopefully we'll make the kickoff.
Well, look, I wish we could get I'm trying to see if I can get Buck to join you on here, let y'all go at it together. He's a good old South Georgia guy from Valdosta. 20 years. Buck and Kincaid been on the air, as he calls it, the very, very favorable 12 to 3 p.m. low traffic time in Atlanta. And I've been in Atlanta here a couple of times the last few months. The traffic on Saturday mornings is worse than the worst day of the week in Memphis. It's crazy, but are you going to sleep outside the Mercedes-Benz Georgia Dome tonight? I mean,
I think my wife would have a problem with that. No, I don't know. I'm going to come back in the morning. But no, we do have a lot of Tiger fans that have made the trip up. Honestly, I think it's going to be about a 70-30 crowd, maybe 65-35. It'll be a pro-Georgia crowd. Of course, us Tigers, we're pretty voracious for the numbers when we're on the away trips. I think it's going to be a pro-Georgia crowd. But, LSU's had great success here in Atlanta. In fact, we used to joke, we used to call it Tiger Stadium East, the Georgia Dome. Of course, this is our first time in MBS. We've had great success here. I think the Tigers, don't quote me on this, I think we're like 10-1 or 11-1 in games in the Georgia Dome or in Atlanta. When you count the Chick-fil-A Bowls and the SEC championship games. But no, it's going to be a great day. I think it's going to be the marquee game of the day, as the SEC championship normally is. I think Georgia absolutely needs this game. Obviously, they'll get jumped if they lose by Oklahoma or by Utah, depending on what happens tonight and tomorrow. I think if Georgia beats LSU, I think we'll win regardless. That would put us in the fourth slot, which more than likely would have us, of course, playing Ohio State. It's just the real interesting thing is if Georgia does beat LSU tomorrow, where that Ohio State LSU game would be played. And we've actually had some success out in Glendale. I know Ohio State is a big contingent out in the Phoenix area, but LSU played UCF, out there. So I think anywhere you're going to be in the playoffs, any team that you're going to play is going to be a very tough out. But I hope people are not overlooking the fact that what an incredible prize being an SEC champion is. Yes, the college football playoffs is the big prize, but when you're an SEC champion, especially down south, that carries a lot of weight with it. And I know the Tigers will be coming to play.
Frank, I'm going to drop a hint here. We've got someone that's joining us on the line right now. We just stomped on their face and broke their nose with a hobnail boot. Joining us now, Buck Ballou from Atlanta, 680 The Fan, 20 years consecutive on the air. Buck and Kincaid show 12 to 3 every day, 680 The Fan. Buck, you're on with Frank Duffy, Dogs, Tigers. I'm going to let you guys go at it. We're going to watch.
Hey, buddy, great Frank, I just hope you can pass along to Coach O and the coaches there. Have done a wonderful job at LSU this season. Just to take it easy on those Dogs here in Atlanta tomorrow. Hey, just pass on that. That's a pretty good Coach O impression, I got to tell you.
All right, right now, both of y'all, this game, both teams are going to the playoff. If Georgia wins, they're both going to go. And I want y'all to tell me what both of y'all think are going to be the two keys to winning the game. Georgia's going to have a huge crowd there. Man, that's a tough place to play. LSU's going to bring a lot of fans, but I want y'all's thoughts. This is y'all. Buck, you go first.
Well, Georgia and what they would have to do to pull off the upset is defensively, they can't allow the big play. Gosh, it seems like I see Jamar Chase running down the middle of the field wide open every single game for a 70-yard touchdown catch and run. So you can't allow any of that to happen. And then offensively, Georgia has to have a fast start. They need to get out quick. They need to hit some of these shots that Fromm's been missing. They need Swift to show up and make some guys miss and take it to the house. They need to get off to a good start and play from the front. And to do that, third down is going to be critical for them, whether it's third and short or third and medium. They're going to have to be sharp and be able to convert right there, because the worst thing you can do with this LSU offense is to go 3-and-out punt and send Burrow back out there. And then finally, Georgia has to win the special teams, which I think they're capable of doing. You look around at special teams, you don't really talk about it until something bad happens. But Georgia's put together a really good group, so if they could win that part of the game, that would help.
Buck, one thing is, you talked about Fromm. I mean, there's something missing with him right now. What do you think it is?
I believe it's the wide receiver problem is the deal. You don't see a lot of open receivers running around running pass routes.
That's a good point.
Separation. You're facing some really good defensive backs and cornerbacks in the SEC. The go-to guy, Holloman, got thrown off the team in June. They're relying on freshman Pickens, who's sitting out the first half because he threw a right hand at one of these Georgia Tech players last week and pulled him into the wall. So the receiver has been the issue, and it's one of these things really you just can't really anticipate. You're going to lose 3 guys to the NFL, and at the same time, your go-to guy is going to get thrown off the team during the summer for not being able to do right. And then, while LSU was signing Chase and Marshall, top-rated receivers in the country right down the street, Georgia at the same time frame didn't have any of these top receivers to recruit. So it all seemed to develop in that fashion.
There's a lot at stake in this game too, Buck, because I know LSU got a big commitment recently out of the Atlanta area where there are so many players. Of course, you're from Valdosta, and one of these days, some promoter, it may be Barnum and Bailey's grandson or great-grandson, we're going to have an all-star game with all the players 50 miles north or south of I-10 versus the best players 50 miles north or south of I-20. Let's have it in Atlanta. But what do people, the LSU players last year, they beat Georgia by 20 down in Baton Rouge. That was a big win for LSU, but how comparable are the two teams? I think Burrow this year's almost 80% completion of the passes. How similar are they, and how much better is Georgia? And how much better do you think LSU is from a year ago?
Well, I did find it interesting early this week, Monday, Coach O really sort of came out and admitted that Georgia had the advantage on the line of scrimmage, talking about the Bulldogs' massive offensive line. It's not just 5 guys. They got about 8 guys that can play up front on the offensive line, and he took notice of that. He mentioned that Georgia defensive front, too, where they're playing around 8 defensive linemen for in and out of the game, so they've got a lot of depth there. And, you know, I've always been a believer that, hey, if you can if your big boys can win up front, it allows those quarterbacks, running backs, receivers to go out and play ball. And so if Georgia can handle that line of scrimmage, certainly would help their chances in this game. But I tell you, Joe Burrow has been unbelievable this season. What he's been able to do has been so impressive. I know he's a guy that came into Baton Rouge with a chip on his shoulder. I understand Urban Meyer told him or called him D3 when they were together there in Columbus. For that period of time at Ohio State, which is, to me, a slap in the face pretty much. So Burrow came in with something to prove, and so does Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's been so outstanding. He's been fun to watch, especially as a receiver, utilizing him in the passing game. And I believe Nick Saban told him that he'd probably be only just a kick returner in the SEC, that he wasn't good enough to play at Alabama at running back. So there's another guy that has got a little chip on his shoulder. He's motivated. This is a great matchup. I'm really excited about it. You got that Georgia D and the LSU offense. The head coaches are compelling. The programs are excited about busting through that Alabama challenge. And it's really different styles of play. LSU winning with the track meet. Passing game, and Georgia looking to get you in a fist fight makes for the premier matchup on Championship Saturday.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Frank, there have only been 4 teams since 1982 in the SEC to hold teams their average single points on defense for an entire season. This Georgia defense is one of the best that I've seen. They've kind of gone back to the old days, retro, with the defense. Offense, defensive lines are just so dominant. Special teams, good with Rodrigo Blankenship. He's had a great career at Georgia. Special teams are going to play a role in here. Now, here's LSU, 12-0. I got to ask you this question: is there a possibility that LSU is sort of flat? I know this sounds crazy, but flat because they almost know that if they lose the game 21-20. They're still most likely going to be in the playoffs. Is there a concern about that? Because if Georgia has the opportunity, smells blood. I mean, Jake Fromm is a winner. He'll find a way to do it. But are you concerned about that at all? And then give me the LSU case here before the court.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I can't argue with anything, but there are a lot of great points that you brought up LSU, guys. Absolutely accurate. And by the way, you talked about which is defense. Those homes are bad at times. Some way back when. Some of the boys I think this week were wondering if some of these LSU fans would skip the trip this weekend and get ready for the national semifinals, which would mean that would make more tickets available. Here's my take on it. I think that Alabama would have been still cheering. I'm anxious to see what the atmosphere is going to be. This atmosphere, by the way, I've been to Super Bowls, and, some of the big bowl games and things like that, and even played in a couple of them. But this matchup at MBS, a world-class facility that they built here in Atlanta, is just a wonderful venue, and you got an two electric fan bases that are showing up, just raising the roof down there. I tell you, I just love it.
Right now, going into this game, Joe Burrow is completing about 79% of his passes. Is that a national record? Because he's got so many weapons. I remember a couple of years ago in the spring game, LSU had 17 wide receivers on the team. There wasn't a Leonard Fournette. or a 5-star running back in the backfield. Clyde Edward-Helaire, I think, is the best running back in the SEC, along with DeAndre Swift. So you're going to have those two on the field tomorrow. How big is the running game for both teams? Because Georgia's defensive line is really stingy. And I want you to talk, Frank, I want you to go first, and then Buck can respond to that.
Sure. Well, you and I spoke before the Alabama game, Rob, on the importance of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it showed out in that game. He has to be able to get some pressure off that line. Jamar Chase is a phenomenal receiver. So is Justin Jefferson. But to be able to give Burrow time with that very aggressive Georgia defensive line, you got to be able to do those checkoffs out to Edwards-Helaire. And as you know, I think he's got something close to like almost 50 receptions this year. So you're going to have to be able to kind of take that pressure and be able to double up. And Burrow's done a very good job of that. Also, a big factor in that is Thaddeus Moss, the tight end. Going back from, last year, and we started getting the tight end involved a lot more. Boston Moreau, actually, who is the nephew of a good friend of mine, LSU buddy of mine. We started getting the tight end involved a lot more, and you've seen it really come out over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Thaddeus Moss had a great game against, I believe it was Arkansas. So you've got to have that ability to keep the offense going. It's going to be critical that LSU picks up those third down conversions. They're one of the best in the country right now. But I will tell you, I go back to what I said before Buck got on the line. I think the unsexy side of the ball is where this game is going to be won or lost. It's got to be that LSU defense. If the LSU defense showed up like we did against Ole Miss, Georgia's running game is too good. The LSU's going to be in for the battle of their life. And if the defense showed up like they did against Arkansas, then granted a much less offense. But Texas A&M's offense is pretty good offense. If that defense shows up like they did last week, I think LSU is going to be able to own that side of the ball, and I think that's where this game's going to be won. It's going to be the LSU defensive line against those big horses and Georgia's offensive line, and who's going to control that line of scrimmage. Because I think LSU's going to score. We're going to get points. Our offense is that good. It's going to be how much they're going to allow Georgia to come down and score.
You got Dave Aranda, Kirby Smart, 4 national championships as the defensive coordinator on the staff with Nick Saban at Alabama. Mm-hmm. There's just nowhere to hide in this game. Buck, let's talk about that, because Georgia's, look at their offensive line. Andrew Thomas is the future first-round pick. But what about the absence of Cager and Pickens in the first half? Can Georgia's running game keep them in that game if it starts getting into a track meet in the first half?
Which I'm really fascinated on both sides of the ball here. And, let's address the side you're asking about here first. This LSU defense is really under Dave Aranda. You see a base defense, really 3 big defensive linemen. You got Chase on up there coming off the edge. But I'm just so impressed with the fast flow scheme where they're super aggressive at the safety spot, where you've got Grant Delpit and Jacoby Stevens, and they see that tight end block down, and they are coming off the edge. They're stuffing any kind of outside run game. So Georgia's going to have to figure that out. Maybe run inside of it, I think, would probably be the best way to attack that. And then you look on the other side of the ball, LSU, these RPOs, Joe Burrow's just carving people up with this thing. And Georgia feels really good about where their secondary is right now. Georgia coming in, their focus is going to be to try to control and slow down this LSU passing attack. And I think you'll see that at the quarterback spot, Georgia is completely different than they were a year ago, where DeAndre Baker was playing at this really high level, and he won that Jim Thorpe Award last season, playing in the NFL now. The other side, you saw the LSU receivers picking on them when they played. This year is different. They've got Daniel and Stokes who are really playing at a high level. Those are your starters on the outside. And then inside, which is really the key here to stopping or slowing down the RPOs, where they've got big safety-like cornerbacks, some hybrid guys like Webb and Devon Wilson, who have stepped up this year, sort of under the radar a little bit. But Georgia feels really good about their ability to cover. So I think the key for LSU is they need to run it and have success running it with Clyde Edwards in there, and maybe that will give them some big play opportunities a little later in the game with the pass game. But Hilaire is awesome. He can hurt you running it. He can hurt you as a receiver. So you got to be focused on him.
Yeah, Buck, I haven't seen one that good in a long time.
And Rob, to Buck's point, you know, LSU has given up a lot of big plays this year. You know, I mean, think of that the last pass play where 2 or 3 are deep, you know, in Tuscaloosa. There's no way Steelers should have gotten beat on that. So LSU is susceptible. Yes, the safety play has been phenomenal. Delta, you know, probably the best safety in the country. But on the corners, you still got young corners that are out there. And if some people have said, I mean, some people even say that Orlando might even do zero backfield, meaning that he's just got the 2 corners on the 2 wideouts. You know, that's dangerous. I mean, I just, you know, I don't think they do that. I mean, I know it's something that would be very attractive to stack the line of scrimmage, but you got to be careful. And you've got young guys that are back there. Jake Fromm is a seasoned veteran, and you know he's caught some slack lately for not being accurate. But let me tell you, I watched that kid play against Oklahoma in that game, and he's got it in him to drop dimes in the defensive backfield, and he is a smart, heady quarterback. So I'm telling you, that the Georgia offense against the LSU defense, that I think is where this game's going to be won or lost. I really do.
All right, guys, listen, we've got to go take a break here. Thank you both for being on this show. I will say this, and Buck, you're a legendary quarterback. We've all followed your career, and the one thing about Jake Fromm is he never gets rattled. One thing about Joe Burrow is he never gets rattled. This is going to be one of the best games. We're eating a bunch of food from Pimentos, one of our sponsors. We've got wings, burgers. Guys, we're eating hamburgers with pimento cheese and French fries on them. Wings, we're stuffing ourselves right now. That's what everybody's going to be doing tomorrow. Is tomorrow a couch potatoes nirvana? Would Kurt Cobain just be saying this is just the best day of the year for everybody?
In the deep south, I can tell you that depends on the outcome of the game. But I guarantee you, both these fan bases are quality, and they're excited to be in the hunt without Alabama standing in the way. So this is going to be an awesome matchup. And whether you're at home in the man cave or in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in downtown Atlanta, it's going to be a special day.
Hey, guys.
Georgia, as you can agree, we're just happy bombing here.
I love it. Hey, guys, thank you so much. I want to do this again with you. We'll all be watching tomorrow. Thank you so much. And let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Ira Schofield from warchant.com, talk a little FSU football, sidelines.live. Stay with us.
Good deal.
All right. Thank you, guys. Yeah, he wants to do a video with. Trey knows, but he wants to do a video with. Video was giving something up.
We don't just say we care, we show we care. At Ortho that's the motto we live by. We place an emphasis on seeing our patients as quickly as possible without sacrificing quality in the care that each patient deserves. Our experienced orthopedic physicians, all of whom are surgeons, display a genuine interest in your personal health, a concern for your time, and a friendly, skilled staff are what you can expect every time you visit one of our offices in Arlington, Collierville, and Olive Branch. Fast, quality care. That's the Ortho One difference. Check them out at ortho1.org. You know what my man cave needs?
What's that, Rob?
A giant screen TV with surround sound.
handle
You
that.
should go to
My wife-
Gaddison.com.
That's right. They can do all of this without costing us a fortune. They can also put in the security cameras and outdoor lighting you've been wanting forever.
What are you waiting for?
Hey, check them out at gaddishome.com or on our website, sidelines.live. That's Gaddis Home Innovation.
Did he say he'd be calling in at 4:35?
Where did you get that Sunday deal?
Cargo safe. Cargo safe.
Where are the best liquor deals?
Cargo safe. Cargo. Now you've had a car wreck.
I'll go over there. He loves
What
American
will you
football. I've known him and
do?
his dad. I used to
Call
work for
Tom
them.
Martin's Body Shop. They will help you. God will tell you how much, and maybe you'll cry. If you
Tonight?
work with insurance, and that is no lie.
What time? I gotta go.
Before you
When you
know it, your car is like new.
Thanks. Fine.
Lane
Hey,
Tippett ran the old
Body
shop.
Shop.
Lane Tippett
Anyone
sold that.
hears you.
Norvell's done, but he's at Florida State.
That's where I heard it too.
And he's taking Charlie Strong as his defensive coordinator.
Yeah, the very fact he's not saying that he's not going, I would tell you.
It's time.
Okay. Let's do the big orange report. Come back.
It's on there.
I will be out over my
Yeah, and said anything.
We don't know.
Okay, Rob Brown along with Gordon
What
Gordon
a
back here.
great song. I mean, I
It really
love
is.
this song.
That is a
I
great
love
song.
Pat Benatar.
Pat Benatar, the queen of the 80s, the Trans Am's, a big old Thunderbird on the front hood of a Trans Am. Our manager, Dave Brown, is a curator of the Museum of the 80s here with us. Snakeskin Cowboy Shane in there with Miss Audrey, Gordon Ford. That was fun. Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU in Atlanta. Buck Bellew, legendary Georgia quarterback of the 1980 national champions. How much fun would that have been to turn around and hand the ball off to Herschel Walker? Go! Run, you Herschel, run! My God, a
I
freshman!
mean, seriously, if you look at the Southeastern Conference in the 80s, I mean, everyone knows him. I mean, the guy was more famous than, a lot of people, because he was Buck Bellew. I mean, that's when guys were legends, man. You know what I'm saying? And like today, like Jamarcus Russell,
A living brain donor. You know what's crazy is, I tell you what, how'd you like to be Buck Bellew over there in Atlanta and go out to dinner and with your old coach, Vince Dooley? And, I know he wishes he could with Irk Russell. And Irk Russell, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the show, not in the College Football Hall of Fame, all the national championships he won at Georgia Southern over in Statesboro, because he coached 1 year short of the required 10 years as a head coach to make the Hall of Fame. I say Erskine Irk Russell in the Hall of Fame now.com. Let's start a website for that, Gordo. Remember Irk Russell?
Oh, yeah.
Junkyard Dogs? God, that was a great era.
great coach when he was at Valdosta State, wasn't he? And
Yeah.
did a great
Well,
job.
yeah, he was at Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern.
Put them on the map. Hey, before we go, we're going to try to have Ira Schofield from warchant.com talking some Florida State football. Let's do the Big Orange Report, brought to you by Jameson and Fisher Property and Casualty Insurance, located on the historic square in Covington, Tennessee. And we're going to talk a little Big Orange football here. And let's say this, Gordon, the job Coach Jeremy Pruitt has done in his second year at Tennessee, it's amazing. They start off losing to Georgia State and BYU. And I want to say this real quick. We're going to go to Ira Schofield because he's calling in now from warchant.com. We're going to come back. We're going to focus on Tennessee. and do our Big Orange Report in just a moment. Sometimes this happens on live radio. Ira Schofield from Tallahassee. Lots of rumors, lots going on. You were on with Gordon yesterday. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Ira, they're telling me down there, and I'm hearing stuff that Norvell is done. Are you hearing the same thing?
I mean, within the last hour or so, I was told that they were still negotiating, that that's where it's headed, but I have not heard it's a done deal yet.
Well, it's close to a done deal, and I heard he probably will bring Charlie Strong as defensive coordinator.
Okay.
Because one of the things is you don't really have to pay Charlie Strong a lot of money because Texas is still paying him.
Yeah, for sure. And USF, I'm sure, will still be paying.
A little bit, yeah, but they weren't paying him a lot because Texas was paying,
so much.
the majority of his salary. I think he was on there for like 5 years, and he was only there 3, so there you go.
Yeah.
What?
Ira, I want to ask you a question. Back in the mid-'80s, when Charlie Pell was forced out in 1984 at Florida, they vacated the SEC office, vacated the conference title that year. Florida got in trouble. Galen Hall, Wilford Brimley's twin brother, took over as head coach of the Gators, former Penn State guy. And at that time, when Florida was going through their turmoil, Florida State really just absolutely crushed it. They owned the state of Florida in recruiting, and you go from that period, 1987 to 2000, 14 straight years, Florida State never finished outside of the top 4 in the final recruiting rankings. After the 2000 season, Mark Richt goes to Georgia. 2001 to 2009, Florida State had one 10-win or more season. 2010, Jimbo Fisher comes in, gets it cranked up. He leaves a mess. I don't know if it was Jameis Winston, with all that stuff with him. It broke the chain of command with discipline or whatever. If you screw it up at Florida State, that's like screwing up a 2-car funeral. That's my opinion as an Auburn guy, because you're 195 miles away. I know that rivalry, that series, and I've been to games at Doak Campbell Stadium when Chief Osceola comes out on Renegade and they throw that spear that's lit in flames at the center of the field. How can you screw it up? Look, things happen, but what is the attitude and opinion and the feeling of the Florida State faithful? Do they believe that they can get it back? Because Willie Taggart, it didn't work.
Yeah, no, it definitely didn't work, and it is amazing how quickly things can turn. As you said, when Jimbo took over in 2010, Florida State had been really at its lowest point. They had gone 7-6, basically each of the last few years under Coach Bowden. And then Jimbo comes in, wins 10 games his first year, kind of surprises people, beat South Carolina in the bowl game. Next couple of years, putting together 9-10-1 seasons. And then in 13, they win it all. They win national title, and you feel like, okay, Florida State's back now. They're going to be here forever, or at least another 5-10 year run. And then a couple of years later, they're kind of back down, and Jimbo is kind of lost his way. And I think the whole Jameis stuff was probably part of it. I think there was his personal family issues were part of it, going through a divorce. I think there had some coaching changes, turnover on the staff, and I think it all kind of led to things falling apart. And honestly, I've always said that I think a big reason Jimbo was so interested in Texas A&M was because he knew things were going the wrong direction and he needed a fresh start.
Well, $75 million had something to do with himself.
There's no doubt. But when you're only making $6 million a year, I don't know if 7.5 is the end of a totally different thing. And Florida State maybe if things were going better might have looked at reaching that money, but everybody knew things were going in the wrong direction. So Willie Taggart was a bad hire, and now here you are 2 years later going through this again. They have to get this hire right. I think that's where most fans feel is, if Florida State's going to come back, they have to get this hire right. And be honest, I think there's going to be mixed reactions on Mike Norvell, not because he's not a good coach, but just because they're going with another younger guy that people will feel like, hey, we don't know enough about the guy we're giving the keys to the program.
But to me, one of the big deals about the fall of Florida State is when they played in that bowl game and Houston beat them handily. What do you think?
Yeah. No, that was definitely a sign of things to come. At the time, with fans and some of the media, I think we talked ourselves into believing was that maybe Florida State didn't really want to be there, and one of those bowl games where the mid-major school is really fired up, and the high major school feels like this is beneath them, and so you kind of talk yourself into thinking, well, if they played during the regular season, it would have been different. But I think in hindsight, you're right. I mean, I think Florida State they were starting to spiral downward, and the big thing you saw there in that game was really the beginning of poor quarterback play and really poor offensive line play, and they got dominated. Houston's defensive front dominated Florida State's offensive line, and the poor quarterback play, and it's been the same story really ever since.
Switching gears here, you look at Houston, and Tom Herman went there for 2 years. He was 8-4, and everybody talked about what a genius he is. And you look at he goes to Texas, and he's done nothing there. I mean, it's just really, I mean, he's better than Charlie Strong. Anybody's better than him, but you just look at that and you say to yourself, sometimes taking a chance on some of these guys who are jacked up that are young could be a mistake.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge. I mean, and the reality is there's no sure thing, and that's what I've been trying to convince people when I talk to people and the local fans and people in Tallahassee is that there's no perfect recipe. If there was, all these schools wouldn't be doing this every year. Firing and hiring coaches, and sometimes, for example, 2 years ago, Florida State had the chance. If they wanted Mac Brown, they could have had Mac Brown, but they didn't. They wanted to go with a younger coach who would be more charismatic and exciting. But Mac Brown is doing pretty well in North Carolina. Now, I don't know how he would have done at Florida State, but he did graduate from Florida State, and he's a guy that a lot of people here are connected to, but they wanted to go young. And the challenge when you go young is there's just not as much of a track record. And so, again, everybody, you talk to that's dealt with a coach like Mike Norvell or certainly Tom Herman is, these are the up-and-coming future generation guys, but they don't, they just don't have as much of a track record to judge by. The problem is, once they get to the Power 5 level and they have success, nobody can afford to hire them away, or you just get them raises because, Florida State talked to Matt Campbell, he got a raise and extension. They talked to James Franklin, he got a raise and extension. And that's what ends up happening a lot of times in these searches.
Ira, this past year, Florida State privatized its athletic department, Seminole Boosters, Inc. And where does most of the money for Florida State athletics come from? We keep hearing that they're not real flush with cash. Of course, college athletics, as Tommy Tuberville has said on the show many times, it's not about making money, it's about winning. And showing a profit is not as important as winning. Sometimes you're in debt because you're expanding, you're building facilities or whatever. The Florida State fan base is more similar to the fans of the SEC than they are the ACC. What do they want in Tallahassee from their football program and out of their new coach? And who is the leader of the athletic department? I know they have an AD, but every school's got those guys that write the big checks and make things happen.
Well, I mean, Florida State fans definitely have SEC tastes. They feel like they're at that level of a program, and they should expect to compete at that level. The problem is, these SEC schools and really most of the colleges that Florida State's competing with are these land-grant universities that have been in existence for over 100 years and have been cranking out the doctors and lawyers and business leaders for decades and decades. And Florida State's a much younger school. It really is about, it's about 60, 70 years old, as opposed to some of these other schools. They didn't have a medical school for most of that time. They didn't have a law school for all of that time. So their alumni base and their big donor base, you don't have as many huge power players. You've got more, it's more of a grassroots. Has always been Florida State's approach to raising money. So most of their money comes from, when it comes to contributions, it's a mass of donors, thousands and thousands and thousands of donors at lower levels. They don't necessarily have the one guy, T-Bone Pickens, or somebody like that who just writes that one big check, or at Oregon, some to a night one of these schools that has a huge benefactor. The nice thing about that is you don't have as much interference. FSU has not traditionally not had as much of a problem with, hey, this guy gives $20 million a year and he's going to demand a say in every coaching decision and every hire. Florida State really doesn't have that. In terms of who runs the show, it's much more the president of the university, John Thrasher, and the chair of the board of trustees, Ed Bowe. They're the two guys that really kind of make the big decisions. Now they have some donors that they try to keep happy, but Florida State's not one of those schools that has just a huge heavy hitter that really calls the shot.
You mean you're telling me that you wouldn't want to deal with someone like Bobby Louder, who was very helpful at Auburn?
I didn't want to name him since you said he was.
Yeah, no, but look, he does a lot for Auburn. But Jerry Jones, what a nice guy to deal with who supports Arkansas. Mr. Jones, we're going to do this. Now, you let me tell you something. This is what we're going to. Look, I'll say this. Tim Cook is an Auburn man. Loves Auburn. Very quiet. He understands. Don't over micromanage. I've been to Tallahassee a number of times. Burt Reynolds came up here to the Orpheum one time years ago, talked about his life, talked about playing college football at Florida State. Man, everybody loved Gordo, Burt Reynolds, Sally Fields, and Mr. Seminole. But look, come and listen to my story about a man named Jed, the poor man. Buddy Epson, Florida State grad. Lee Corso, Florida State grad. You know what? In 1976, we were in Destin, Florida for spring break. My dad is an architect. We drove over to Tallahassee that day. He wanted to meet with them about building this new infrastructure. The athletic director he met with said, we've hired us a football coach from West Virginia that was burned in effigy. We've got a schedule that nobody in their right mind would schedule here at Florida State, but we're going to build this football program. And you know who I'm talking about. What was his name? Bobby Bowden? Okay. Look, I grew up Auburn fan. I'm 56 years old. That Auburn-Florida State series, come on. It's hard to beat it. There is no excuse. We wanted you all in the SEC at Auburn. Okay? Still do. Everybody's. There's not any question. Florida State is SEC. You get on that field and you do the eyeball test, Florida State's an SEC program. And as an Auburn grad, I'm just saying that y'all got to get it fixed. And when we expand in the SEC, I hope you all join our club.
Well, they would, Florida State would be happy to come because they definitely like the SEC paychecks. And they would definitely like to play in some of those stadiums and all of that. But the problem is, from what everybody says, is that Florida's got no interest in Florida State coming to the SEC. So, but if they could ever work it out, I know FSU would be thrilled. Most people at FSU would be thrilled about that opportunity.
Well, listen, if you haven't been to a game at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee and on a Saturday night, man, what an atmosphere. And again, sometimes people just get bored with being successful. But, Gordon, you are wired. I want both of y'all to tell me, who do you all think in the next 48 hours is going to be Florida State's football coach?
Oh, no doubt, Norvell.
Tuberville.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
it definitely sounds like that's where it's going. As long as they can reach an agreement, because it sounds like other schools are interested too.
who does Chief Osceola want to be the head coach at Florida State?
Good question. Probably Bill Belichick or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thanks, Ira.
This is great. Will you come back on?
Yeah, sure thing.
How do people follow you?
I appreciate it. Yeah, our website's warchant.com, part of the Rivals Network, and we always have free trial subscriptions going on. And then also, I'm on Twitter at Ira Schofel, IRASCHOFFEL.
Hey, great report. Thank you so much. If anything breaks, call back in. Now we're going to go to Coach, you bet, Tommy Tuberville's on the line with us. Hey, Coach. Coach, give us an update on that campaign trail with you and the man, Jellyfish Jeff.
Yeah.
Anything exciting going on the campaign trail? Give us an update before we get into some football.
Yeah, it's going good. Just all over the state, just driving, speaking, talking to folks, and we got great momentum. People are, just tired of politicians. To be honest with you, we've got to drain the swamp. We got to send somebody up, President Trump, and I'm excited about everybody being excited.
Coach, is Trump going to get out all this? I mean, you watch every day. I've never seen a bunch of people after one president or whatever. I mean, it is just absurd the way they're treating this man. I mean, just ridiculous how the media jumps on him and everybody else. I mean, and then you've got, senators who are, or excuse me, congressmen and stuff, like that girl that, that got caught having an affair and with women and stuff like that and all sorts of crazy stuff. And these are people getting, it's just unbelievable. I just shake my head when I get up and watch it every day.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It is.
Where we've come to in this country. When you're doing stuff like this, it means you've got something to hide. We should be going after Hillary Clinton with her emails.
Absolutely, and shift
Going
too.
after servers, going after Benghazi, going after the Fast and Furious, the guns that were given out. That's all they're doing. They're trying to keep the focus off the laws that they broke, trying to go after a president to try and get something done about making a phone call. Now, it makes a lot of sense, for this to be happening. It's the craziest thing I've ever
It's
seen.
the craziest thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to go to Washington. I want to go up there and call them what they are. They're
Like,
fools. They're
yeah.
idiots. They're not Americans. They're crooks.
Yeah,
That's
and
what it is.
you know what? The people, the abuse of power is them, not the people. The American people elected in a free election, and I don't remember anyone from Moscow or St. Petersburg or Minsk calling me and going, "Comrade Rob, you must vote for Trump." Yeah. Hey, Coach, if you don't mind, hold for us through a break. We had a FSU warchant.com, Iris Schofield, talking about the FSU coaching thing. We've got to take a commercial break and let our sponsors that make this show possible, and we're going to come back with you. Is that okay?
That's great.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us, sidelines.live.
Kitchens Unlimited is celebrating 50 years in the business of building kitchens and baths. They are located at 3550 Summer Avenue near the intersection of Summer and Highland. Joe and Karen Casson are friends of mine. I've known them 27 years. They're open weekdays, Monday through Friday from 10 to 5, not open on the weekends. Check out their website, kitchensunlimited.net.
Rob, I'm looking at their website. I've been in Kitchens Unlimited before. They have great inventory. It's a great way that they take you through the process of talking to you about what you want to do and what your budget is. You feel like it's a very personal process all along the way. And as anyone knows, bathrooms and kitchens, they sell homes, they make homes. So it's a great store.
You're right, and I don't think I could have said it any better. Women know more about what makes the kitchen work, what makes the bathroom work. These people are the best. They work with architects, builders, and developers throughout the Mid-South. Go to Kitchens Unlimited, 3550 Summer Avenue near the intersection of Summer and Highland. They've been in the business now 50 years. Check out their website, kitchensunlimited.net. They are a member of the sidelines.live team. Check them out on our website, kitchensunlimited.net.
If Grandma runs over Santa's reindeer, don't leave that deer alone there in the street. Load him up and take him down to Dino's, where they can process him into some real fine meat.
Your home is one of your most valuable assets. It's where you and your family live and create lasting memories. It's where you keep your valued possessions. You never know exactly what's around the next corner. That's why you need Jameson & Fisher. Since 1907, they've been serving the needs of Mid-Southerners for auto, renters, ATV, motorcycle, home, boat, and business insurance. Call, email, or stop by. The office is located on the historic square in Covington, Tennessee. Or check them out on the web at jamesonandfisher.com.
Go ahead, John. John, yeah, we'll go with, just go with this. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Well, I got some coke in my bourbon, surfing a room like a swayze. No, I ain't drunk, I'm amazed. Yeah, I got that way back in my swagger. X Factor, feeling no pain. I'm at the top.
All right, Rob Brown and Gordon Ford back here with you at Sidelines on a Friday afternoon. The final 15 minutes of the fourth quarter, joined by Tommy Tuberville, former coach at Ole Miss, Auburn, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati, and now running for the U.S. Senate as a Republican down in Alabama. As I like to say, Coach, you're either part of the establishment nowadays or you're a patriot. I'll tell you one thing, John Hancock and Francis Marion would be proud to call you a fellow soldier. And I bet it's a lot like recruiting when you're out there on the trail, and this is a big time of year. Teams are coming off wins or losses over their rivals and all. And also there's some changes in coaching. Let's address right now what you're hearing about the Ole Miss coaching search. Matt Luke, the first recruit you had at Ole Miss, I think Gordon and I and you and everybody else were surprised when he was let go this past Sunday. He loves Ole Miss. He gave everything he had, and he probably always will. But what do you think they'll do at Ole Miss? And then we'll get to a couple of other opportunities.
Well, first of all, I don't understand what they did that for. I mean, the guys, he inherited one of the toughest situations in the world, and you can't win in the SEC unless you got a full complement of scholarships, and you've been planning it and organizing it for several years. I mean, they set themselves back a year or two at least, and I don't understand. I guess they've got an athletic director. I mean, they might have moved him up. Was he an interim? Did they move him up?
Yeah, it was Keith Carter. He was a basketball player when you were there. So
yeah, well, it's embarrassing they did that to one of their own. Because as you said, that was my first recruit, and his family and him and everybody was Ole Miss. I mean, you've got to treat your own differently. You got to give him a chance. It's not like he made a ton of mistakes. He was recruiting well, and now they've set it back another couple of years because all those recruits are going to look at this going, I'm not getting in that mess. And so I don't know who pulled the string on this, but they got to live with it. They got to go on with it and see what happens. But Matt Luke will end up in a better place. And because he's a good football coach and he's a really good guy. So I don't know who they'll get. I don't know who wants it, to be honest with you.
Well, to be honest with you, they say they're naming Lane Kiffin on Sunday. It's the word.
You got to be kidding me.
No, sir. That's who they say they're going to name on Sunday. Mike Norvell's going to Florida State. I don't know what's going to happen in Arkansas. That job is kind of disastrous. People have turned them down. I don't have a clue what they're doing over there. But as of right now, they say Lane Kiffin will be the new coach at Ole Miss on Sunday.
Well, you go out there and get you a name. I like Lane, but every job he's been at it hadn't worked. And, he inherited a pretty good situation at the place he's at now, which is, it's, I guess,
Florida Atlantic, yeah. No, they're Division I.
Oh, they're Division I.
They're playing. They're in the Conference USA. They're playing UAB for the championship tomorrow.
Well, that's a long haul from Conference USA to Ole Miss and the SEC. But it looked like they want to get them a name, somebody that recruits can recognize. Lane has been in the SEC. That's a plus. He knows what he's got to do. Just hope they didn't go out and sign somebody and give him a $40 million contract.
No, sir. He's not getting that. He's getting, I think it's 4.1 a year. And if anything, this is what I'm hearing. If he were to mess up in any way, he could be fired without a buyout, like some other personal issues.
Yeah, well, that's good. Because it's just embarrassing to see these athletic directors, and most of them don't know what they're doing, giving these huge buyouts to guys that they got to prove themselves.
No, this guy's doing what he's supposed to do. So
yeah, well, good. So $4 million, a lot of money for Ole Miss. He probably would have come for half of that, but they got to live with it. Now he's got to get it done. Maybe the athletic director can help him. Don't hire him and just run. Go help him do things. Make sure that they get the right coaches and put everything in perspective, because athletic directors usually hire somebody like that and then they hide for about 5 years and then they have to go fire them. And hopefully this guy will give him some help.
No, actually, I'm very impressed with him. He's done some good things so far. But, one of the things is, I hear that he probably would keep Mike McIntyre, who I think is, know your opinion of him. And
good coach, really good coach.
And he's going to keep some of the guys that can help him recruit. And it seems like Lane knows offense, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Coach, I got to ask you a question. I didn't mean to interrupt. You were at Texas Tech. You competed against Baylor. Matt Rule came down from Penn State. His first year, he goes 1-11, and now he's 11-1. They're going to take on Oklahoma. You coached in the Big 12, 2010, 11, and 12 at Texas Tech. And I want to kind of go out that way, because one of the things about you is you have no filter. You're a straight shooter. That's why we love having you on this show, because you're a truth broker. Let's talk about the Baylor-Oklahoma game and that job out there at Baylor, and what that school, if they beat Oklahoma, can they make the 14 playoff?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say something about Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a good football coach. I used to sit down with him because he was in our conference when I was in Cincinnati. And he's one of the few guys that's ever come to me and said, Coach, can I sit down and talk to you? We'd sit down and talk. And I was very impressed with him because he wanted to learn to be a good, not just a good, but a great head coach. And he wasn't afraid, because of his ego, to ask people, how did you win? And how did you win at your place? And when he took the job at Baylor, I called him. I said, Matt, you're going from Philadelphia to Waco, Texas. You know what you've gotten into. He said, Coach, he says, it was time for me to leave. I said, well, it's not a bad job. It's just you're inheriting a job that almost got the death penalty. And you got to put that organization to it very quickly. And he did. And I'm proud of him, proud of what he's done and how he's done it. And, it's not a very tough league right now. Most every school is down. But he showed up when he needed to. Now they're playing Oklahoma, and I watched the game when they played Oklahoma, and I tell you, they played almost perfect for the first half, and then the second half they couldn't do anything right. And Oklahoma's got better players. They've got a quarterback that can really go. Baylor's got good players, but if they both play their best game, Oklahoma's probably 10, 12 points better. But usually that doesn't happen. I would love to see Matt Rule win this game and win the conference and have an opportunity to play in one of the big bowl games. That would be a story deluxe of what how he's taken that program in a short period of time and got it back on the map, doing it the right way, not spending money on players, not getting caught, and having a structured program that has had success and done it the right way. It is an amazing story as it is, much less even if they win or lose this game.
Yeah, and he's from New York and New Jersey, played up there in high school football. It is really an amazing story. Coach, let's talk now about that Arkansas job. We live in Memphis. We're right on the Arkansas border. I spend about half the year in Arkansas and the Mississippi Delta, places you're familiar with. Like I say, my grandparents are from Helena. I love this area. You got to know the area. You got to know the people. We're hearing a lot of stories at Arkansas. We've heard Lane Kiffin's name. We've heard Mike Leach's name. Do you know a coach that isn't as well known, but he's got a good name, Billy Napier? And what do you think about him, if you know him?
Yeah, I know Billy. Known him a long time. Good football coach. He's been around. He's done well as a coordinator and as a head coach. It'd be a stretch, for a guy to come in the SEC. But I think he would do a good job. I think the guy at UAB would do a good job. I think he's proven himself and what he can do. I think there's several guys out there. They just got to get the right fit, and they got to go out there and help, because they don't need any better facilities. There's not anybody got any better facilities than what they've got. they need people to rally the troops, rally the fans. The fans are dejected, they're mad, they're disappointed. It's been just unorganization from the top to bottom in their athletic program, and they're on the brink of losing this entire thing in football. And hopefully they make the right choice, and I think they can. But then they're going to have patience. My God, they're not very good. I mean, they don't have a handful of SEC players on that team. So whoever they go get, they got to get the heck out of the way and let them try to build this program. But the number one thing is they've got to get somebody that knows how to build a program. And there's a few guys out there I think can get it done.
Coach, if you got back into coaching, let's say you were not in the race that you're in, and you were going to get back into coaching tomorrow. Give me 2 or 3 names that would come to mind that would be the first hires on your staff wherever you got a head coaching job.
There's a list of them. You know, the first thing you got to do is you got to look at what type of player that you can get to come to Arkansas. Okay, you don't just go in there and say, okay, we're going to run this offense, this defense. It don't work that way. I mean, you got to look at the type of players that you can attract. What kind of skilled players? What kind of linemen do you need to run? More of an option offense, or the quarterback attack, run attack, throw attack. There's a lot of things you have to look at, and so that's the first thing. But you also, as you're doing that, remember what conference you're playing in. What's going to give you the best chance to win? What offense? What defense? And it has to go hand in hand of the coaches that you hire to bring in there. Just to say you're going to bring in a guy, hey, we're going to run Gus Malzane's offense. Well, that's good, but then you got to be able to attract the type of players that come to that offense. Last time I looked, Arkansas is going to have to go to Texas to recruit, and they're going to have to go down and probably at least 50% of their players are going to have to come from that part of the country, and then you got to look at those type of players. Probably need to bring in a high school coach from the state of Texas on the staff. One of the big coaches, one of the coaches that's been at, winning their program, winning this programs down there that can give you an edge in recruiting. And I think that's going to be important. But there's a lot of good coaches out there. But as I always told people when I go in and interview for a job, listen, I can hire coaches. I need recruiters. And the best coaches you got to have on your staff are your offensive and defensive coordinators. Everybody else better be a salesman. And they got to bring those players in. Players win games. It's not the coaches. Players win games. And so Arkansas needs players. They need recruiters. They need guys who go out there and sell.
Gotcha. Coach, before we got about 4 minutes left, we always focus part of the show every week, the Big Orange Report. You've talked a lot about the importance of having football coaches as athletic directors because they know what it takes to be a coach. Talk about the job that Jeremy Pruitt is doing and the staff. You probably know some of the members of his staff up at Tennessee because, I've got a crystal steamer pack. That's 24 crystals with or without cheese bet with one of the corporate traders at my office that Tennessee would win 8 games this year. He thought I was crazy early on, but tell me what you think about Jeremy Pruitt and the future of Tennessee football being maybe the beast of the East in the coming years with Jeremy up there.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, somebody asked me who the best hire was in the SEC. I said, there's no doubt, Tennessee. And they said, Jeremy Pruitt. I said, no, Philip Fulmer being the athletic director is going to give them a huge edge in the SEC. Now, they didn't have a lot of SEC players on their team. Jeremy Pruitt will learn, number one, recruiting in the SEC, how to recruit at Tennessee. Philip Fulmer is Mr. Tennessee football. He's the athletic director. He doesn't need to do any coaching. He needs to be giving advice to Jeremy Pruitt on who to recruit, how to recruit, where to go recruit, and they're going to work hand in hand together. I think, if it wasn't for Ed Orgeron probably winning the SEC, you could give votes to Jeremy Pruitt for being Coach of the Year. How they started and how they finished, amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I think Jeremy Pruitt's doing fine. I think he's going to get better and better. And the recruiting is going to get better because he will recruit now. I've recruited against him. I've seen how he can work. He's got great work ethic, and I think the future's going to be very, very bright for the Tennessee Vols with former as AD and with Jeremy Pruitt as the head coach.
I agree with you. And Coach, one other thing. One of your former players, one of my favorite players in Auburn history, Mark Parra, who played for you, is a friend of mine, played on your offensive line, talked about DT and Carlos Dansby. I thought that was great when he was recognized at Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn as an SEC legend. Talk about Carlos Dansby, and hopefully you get to stay in contact with him. But Woodlawn High School in Birmingham's got to be proud, and so is Auburn.
Yeah. Everybody asks me who's the best player you ever coached. Well, the total athlete, the guy that could play many positions and done many things. Now, this is at Miami, this is at Auburn, this is at Ole Miss, was Carlos Dansby. Carlos Dansby was an athlete. And we brought him in as receiver, ended up going to safety, ended up playing outside linebacker, and it played probably 16, 17 years as a NFL player. That's done very, very well and will continue to get better at anything he does because he's got tremendous work ethic. So I love Carlos Dansby. He's the type of player that you want on your team. He's a leader. He's a guy that can bring other people to the best that they can be. So it was great that he was recognized.
Well, Coach, I want to say this. So many of your former players are the reason why Auburn's where they are today and going to go higher and higher. Travis Williams, Cadillac, Ronnie Brown, Jason Campbell, Carlos Dansby, great job. Coach, one last thing. How do people support you on your campaign? We're going to have to go and get ready to eat a bunch of food. Check out Pimentos on our website, but how do they support you? Great weekend to eat a lot of good food.
Yeah, TommyPercentage.com. Enjoy your weekend. But TommyPercentage.com is the easiest way to check me out and enjoy the championship game this week. Should be fun.
All right, Coach, thank you so much. Great report as always. We are so grateful for you and all of our sponsors listening. And I'm going to tell you something. Snakeskin Cowboy Shane, Miss Audrey, our manager, Dave Brown, Gordo. Hey, great show. Check us out, sidelines.live. And Sunday night we'll have a podcast up on the sidelines.live website. Have a great great weekend. Thanks for listening, and thank you to our sponsors.
Every Wednesday night.
Woo!
We're located in the Raleigh Dutchess at 2980 Old Austin Peay Highway. You may also write us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Liberty in Action, AM 1600, Lakeland, Memphis, WMQM. We are on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. That's 5 to 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's Central Time. You can get us on Ustream at WMQM 1600 AM. That's Ustream at WMQM 1600 AM. And on TuneIn.com, search WMQM. That's TuneIn.com, search WMQM. You can also go to our Facebook called Get Smart Memphis. That's Get Smart Memphis, and see each one of our postings for the show that's coming up.